How far would you go in order to serve God? While this is the best bits of the Bible episode, for this episode, you'll be hearing from me, the virtual vicar, and from King James, so called because he's a big fan of the King James Bible. And I'm going to read out to you a famous episode from the Bible, startling, shocking, and yet replete with meaning, from Genesis 22, right near the start of the Bible, when there's a possibility of, well, I'll leave you to hear it from the reading from the Bible. Let's just bring it up on screen. You'll see it if you're watching on the video version. Don't worry, I'm going to read it out for you anyway, so you can have a look. Even if you're just listening on the audio version, all the content will be delivered to you. Now, this is Genesis 22. And it came to pass after these things that God did tempt Abraham and said unto him, Abraham. And he said, Behold, here I am. And he said, Now take thy son, thine only son Isaac, whom thou lovest, and get thee into the land of Moriah, and offer him there for a burnt offering upon one of the mountains, which I will tell thee of. And Abraham rose up early in the morning, and saddled his ass, and took two of his young men with him, and Isaac his son, and clave the wood for the burnt offering, and rose up, and went unto the place of which God had told him. Then on the third day, Abraham lifted up his eyes, and saw the place afar off. And Abraham said unto his young men, Abide ye here with the ass, and I and the lad will go yonder and worship, and come again to you. And Abraham took the wood and the burnt offering, and laid it upon Isaac his son. And he took the fire in his hand, and a knife. And they went both of them together. And Isaac spake unto Abraham his father, and said, My father. And he said, Here am I, my son. And he said, Behold the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering? And Abraham said, My son, God will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. So they went both of them together, and they came to the place which God had told him of. And Abraham built an altar there, and laid the wood in order, and bound Isaac his son, and laid him on the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched forth his hand, and took the knife to slay his son. And the angel of the Lord called unto him out of heaven, and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Lay not thine hand upon the lad, neither do thou anything unto him. For now I know that thou fearest God, seeing that thou hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, from me. So this story is a well-known one in the Bible because it is so shocking. It's about the potential sacrifice of someone's son, his only son. But it's also a prefiguring, a looking forward to Jesus Christ. God sent his son, his only son, to die for us. Because of that, it has deeper meaning. At the time when this was written, it was commonplace in the societies around in which Abraham had been brought up for people to sacrifice their children to placate the gods. So it was possible that he could believe that God really wanted him to do this. It's a shocking story, but it has in its essence a great message for us. But let's turn to King James. What do you think is the main point of this passage for us to take on board?
I think that this particular passage is significant in the sense that Abraham has a number of choices. He's given a very clear instruction, but for Abraham, having the instruction to take his son Isaac to a position where he was going to have to potentially sacrifice something so dear to him, you could argue is probably something that most people wouldn't do. But he chose the latter, to go forward and actually adhere to God's will. Now, when you think about what Abraham must have been going through, this is something that many people will probably actually relate to. Many people will hear signals and voices from God and instructions that in some cases many people will think on the surface, as you said earlier, are shocking. It maybe seem to be the wrong thing to do. But what God is doing is trying to put the person, in this particular case, Abraham, to test how committed is he to God's will. Does he fear him? He clearly did. And what he needed to do was to actually sort of show God that he was prepared to do this. But God intervened. God was convinced that Abraham did love his son, but loved God too. And ultimately, although this is for a much broader story, afterwards, it was clear that Abraham was committed. And I think that many people will recognize this, that there are signals from God where you might have to give up your career, you might have to give up something in your life, which might on the surface seem to be bad. But actually, God is always with you. You have to have faith in God, and God will see you on that journey. It may be a difficult journey, it may be very, very hard for you to make those decisions, but ultimately, God will look after you, and God will do the right thing for you if you do the right thing for God.
Yes, well, that's a good message to take with us. That's something that we can apply, and I hope that you'll be thinking and praying about that. And let us know in comments below if you're watching a video version, or in the podcast. Go to the comment section there, or go to our blog, thevirtualvicar.com, and leave a comment there, and let us know what is it that you took from this. Is there some change that you've had to make, or you're thinking of making in your life, something that God's calling you to? We'd love to hear from you and be able to celebrate whatever it is that you've taken that step of faith in doing. But that'll be it for us here at Best Bits of the Bible for this time. So from King James and me, the Virtual Vicar, it's goodbye and God bless you.